Flores. Ito ang mata ng Agila International. Para naman sa mga headlines ngayong araw ng Biyernes.
ICC inilabas na ang deadline para sa disclosure of evidence laban kay dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte.
Dalawang Pilipino sa Italy dinakip dahil sa pagkakasangkot umano sa drug trafficking.
Pangulong Donald Trump nais patawan ang taripa ang deployment ng US soldiers sa South Korea at sa Japan.
Estados Unidos at Ukraine lumagda ng isang memorandum para sa minerals deal.
At 2 patay at 6 sugatan sa pamamaril sa Florida State University. Inatasan ng International Criminal Court or ICC Pre-Trial Chamber 1 ang prosekusyon na isumit nito ang disclosure of evidence laban kay dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte nang hindi lalagpas sa July 1 ng taong ito.
Kaugnay ito ng umano'y kasong crimes against humanity of murder laban sa dating Pangulo. Batay sa pagsusuri ng ICC Pre-Trial Chamber 1 sa mga material na inihain ng prosekusyon, may makatwirang batayan umano na individually responsible si Duterte bilang indirect co-perpetrator para sa crime against humanity of murder na nangyari raw sa Pilipinas sa pagitan ng November 1, 2011 at March 16, 2019. Sinabi ng Pre-Trial Chamber 1 na dapat isama sa disclosure of evidence ang lahat ng ebidensya na planong gamitin ng prosekusyon sa confirmation of charges hearing. Kabilang na ang kabuuang pahayag ng mga saksi, maging ang mga language translations nito at ang exculpatory material na natukoy nito sa ngayon at material na alinsunod sa Rule 77 ng mga tuntunin ng Korte. Ang anumang mga item anya ng ebidensya na isusumite pagkatapos ng July 1 ay hindi isasaalang-alang para sa mga layunin ng confirmation hearing. Nauna nang sinabi ni ICC Prosecutor Karim Khan na 2 saksi ang kanilang ipepresenta sa korte. Inihanda na rin anya nila ang 16 na oras ng audio-video files at mahigit 9,000 pahina ng mga dokumento para sa nalalapit na pagdinig. Itinakda ng ICC ang confirmation of charges hearing laban kay dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte sa September 23, 2025.
2 Pilipino naman po sa Italy ang inaresto dahil sa umano'y pagkakasangkot ng mga ito sa drug trafficking. Ayon sa ulat ng Philippine Consulate General sa Milan, bumibili at nagbebenta umano ang 2 ng shabu sa naturang bansa. Hindi naman tinukoy ng konsulada ang pagkakakilanlan ng 2 Pilipino, subalit binalaan ang mga Pinoy na sundin ang mga batas sa Italy. Pinagbabawalan din ng konsulada ang mga Pilipino sa paggawa ng mga iligal na gawain upang hindi masira ang imahe ng mga Pilipino na marangal na nagtatrabaho sa Italy. Nakasaad pa sa pahayag ng konsulada na hindi dapat sundin ng ibang pang mga Pinoy ang halimbawang ginawa ng mga Pilipino na una nang naaresto sa naturang bansa dahil sa iba't ibang uri ng paglabag.
8 mga Filipino ang kabilang sa 20 seafarers na nakakulong ngayon sa Malaysia dahil sa paglabag sa immigration laws. Ayon sa Department of Migrant Workers o DMW, ang 8 Pilipino ay crew ng MT Krishna kasama ang 11 Indian nationals at 1 Indonesian. Iniimbestigahan na ng DMW ang manning agency na siyang nag-hire sa mga Pinoy. Aalamin din nila kung bakit walang dokumento ang mga ito kaya nang pumasok ang nasabing barko sa territorial waters ng Malaysia ay nadetene ang mga ito. Pinatitiyak din ng Pangulo sa manning agency ng 8 Pinoy na pasahuri ng mga ito kahit pa naantala ang kanilang trabaho sa barko dahil sa pagkakakulong.
Nakarecover pa ng 2 pang labi ang Philippine Coast Guard mula sa lumubog na sand carrier vessel na Houthis 16 sa Occidental Mindoro. Mula rito ay magiging 4 na ang nasawi mula sa insidente. Nananatiling nasa 14 na katao ang nakaligtas mula sa paglubog ng barko, habang 7 naman ang patuloy na hinahanap ng Coast Guard. Ang Hanggang 16 ay lumubog noong April 15 sa layong 100 meters mula sa shoreline ng Barangay Malawaan, Rizal Occidental, Mindoro. Samantala, nag-deploy ang oil spill booms sa paligid ng lumubog na barko ang Coast Guard Marine Environmental Protection Emergency Group Southern Tagalog bilang precautionary measure sakaling magkaroon ng oil leaks. Sa ngayon po, patuloy pa rin ang ginagawang investigasyon ng PCG kaugnay ng nasabing insidente.
Nagbabala ang Department of Health sa publiko sa mga naitatalang aksidente sa kalsada ngayong panahon ng bakasyon. Sa record ng ahensya mula March 24 hanggang 31, 2024, nasa 631 cases na ang naitalang road traffic-related injuries. Karamihan sa mga kaso ay mga motoristang walang suot na safety gear tulad ng helmets at seatbelts. Sa harap nito, pinayuhan ng DOH ang publiko na tiyakin na nasa maayos na kondisyon ang mga gagamiting sasakyan bago magbiyahe. Laging iche-check ang blow baguettes o battery, lights, oil, water, brakes, air, gas, self-engine at tires.
Inaasahan na sa susunod na linggo ay posible tumaas ang presyo ng mga produktong petrolyo. Batay sa 4 na araw ng kalakalan, posibleng tumaas ang presyo ng kada litro ng gasolina ng 1.30 hanggang 1.60. Habang 1.10 hanggang 1.40 naman ang posibleng hike sa presyo kada litro ng diesel. Ayon po sa Department of Energy, ang pagtaas ng presyo ay dahil sa patuloy na sigalot sa global supplies ng langis. Kasunod pa rin ang pressure mula sa Estados Unidos sa Iran at mga bagong sanctions laban sa Iranian oil exports.
Umabot na sa ikalimang alarma ang sunog sa isang warehouse sa Barangay Viente Reales, Valenzuela City. Nagsimulang sumiklab ang sunog dakong alas 4:20 ng hapon sa Flexo Manufacturing Corporation sa nasabing lugar. Ayon sa Bureau of Fire Protection o BFP, dakong alas 6:45 ng gabi ay itinaas nila ang ikatlong alarma sa sunog. Nahirapan ang mga bumbero dahil ilan sa mga nasusunog na materyales ay gawa sa plastic. Hanggang ngayon ay patuloy ang ginagawang pagresponde ng BFP at ng iba't ibang fire volunteers sa naturang lugar.
Pumunta po ako doon sa loob kasi sobrang takot na po ako kasi sobrang lakas na po yung apoy. Tapos bigla akong pumasok doon, tinignan ko konti pa lang yung apoy. Pagdating po ng bumbero, pagbuhos po nila ng lalong lumakas kasi plastic daw po yun sa kabasura. Yun lang po ang narinig ko doon sa yun lang po.
Susunod, tariff war ng China at Estados Unidos. Malapit na bang matapos?
US at Ukraine nagkasundo na para sa rare earth minerals deal.
At Hamas, handa na bang sumuko para sa kapayapaan sa Gaza? Detalye ng mga balitang yan at iba pang mga balita sa pagbabalik ng Mata ng Agila International.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka nang mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. May mailalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa New Era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
Dahil walang hinto ang balita.
Financial straits.
Mata ng Agila Weekend tuwing Sabado, alas 4 ng hapon. Ito ang Net 25. Matatag, matapag, matapak.
Let's net together sa Net 25. Sa Net 25.
Ipinahiwatig ni US President Donald Trump na isasama niya ang usapin ng pagpataw ng taripa para sa presensya ng tropang Amerikano sa South Korea at Japan. Ito ay sa kabila ng kagustuhan ng dalawang bansa na ihiwalay ang usaping seguridad sa usaping pangkalakalan. Nabatid na mayroong humigit kumulang 50,000 na mga tropang Amerikano sa Japan at 28,500 naman sa South Korea na parehong umaasa sa nuclear umbrella ng Estados Unidos laban sa mga banta mula sa China, Russia at North Korea. Bagaman walang formal na panukala ang US para muling buksan ang kasunduang Special Measures Agreement sa South Korea, ay naghahanda na raw ang Seoul para sa iba't ibang posibleng senaryo, ayon kay First Vice Foreign Minister Kim Hong-kyun. Sa ilalim ng kasalukuyang SMA na nilagdaan bago matapos ang termino ni dating US President Joe Biden, pumayag ang South Korea na dagdagan ng 8.3% ang ambag nito sa gastos ng mga tropang Amerikano, katumbas yan ng $1.47 billion. Gayunpaman, sinabi ni South Korean Finance Minister Choi Sang-mok na hindi kasama sa agenda ang pagsusuri muli ng cost-sharing deal. Ganito rin ang paninindigan ng Japan ayon sa isang opisyal, hiwalay dapat ang usapin ng depensa at taripa. Ayon sa mga eksperto, ang hakbang ni Trump ay isang taktika upang makuha ang mas malaking kontribusyon ng mga kaalyadong bansa kapalit ng proteksyon ng US military.
우리 경제에 미치는 피해가 최소화되도록 대미 협상에 범정부적 노력을 집중하고 경제안보 전략 TF를 등을 통해 민간이 함께 최선의 대응 전략을 마련하겠습니다. 미국 정부의 상호 관세 조치로 당분간 글로벌 금융시장의 높은 변동성이 지속될 것으로 보이며 국내 금융과 외환시장도 민감하게 반응할 것으로 예상됩니다. 시장 변동성이 과도하게 확대될 경우에는 상황별 대응 계획에 따라 가용한 모든 시장 안정 조치를 즉각 시행하겠습니다.
Pinipressure naman na marami si Acting President Han Duck-soo na tumakbo sa nalalapit na presidential election sa South Korea. Ayon kay Choi Jin, head ng Institute for Presidential Leadership think tank, maraming miyembro ng conservatives ang nagsasabing si Han ay isang maaasahang leader na may kakayahang gabayan ng South Korea sa pamamagitan ng isang transitional phase. Kaya rin anilang magbigay ng katatagan ni Han sa kanilang pamahalaan. May background din anila si Han bilang isang trade negotiator at bilang dating US ambassador, kung kaya nakikita na marami na kaya nitong makitungo ng epektibo sa Washington sa mga issue ng taripa at kalakalan. Sa kasalukuyan ay hindi pa nagpapahayag si Han kung nais itong tumakbo sa June 3 snap elections ng South Korea.
Kinumpirma ni US President Donald Trump na nag-usap na sila ng mga matataas na opisyal ng China patungkol sa namumuong trade war sa pagitan ng dalawang bansa. Patuloy kasing nagpapataasa ng reciprocal trade tariff sa isa't isang Washington at Beijing. Ayon kay President Trump, ilang ulit tumawag ang gobyerno ng China sa tanggapan ng Washington na nagbunga sa maayos na pag-uusap ng magkabilang panig.
If you go,
Have you ever talked directly to President Xi?
I don't want to say that. It's just not appropriate.
But you're speaking. Sorry. Has he called you directly? President Xi, or reached out to try to facilitate a conversation?
Well, you'd think it was pretty obvious that he has, but we will talk about that soon. It's not that important because honestly, we're going to have a deal. I believe we're going to have a deal with China. And if we don't, we're going to have a deal anyway because we're going to set a certain target and that's going to be it. You have anything to say about that, Howard?
I think our tariff policy around the world has every country in the world coming in and talking to us. It is incredible. We had country after country in yesterday. We are confident that we will work out something with China.
Tumangging magbigay ng pahayag si Trump kung nakausap niya ba si President Xi Jinping, ngunit tiwala siya na may magagawa sila upang magkasundo ang dalawang gobyerno. Hindi rin nilinaw ni Trump kung tataasan ba o bababaan niya ang 145% na trade tariff na kanyang ipinataw sa China.
I have a very good relationship with President Xi, and I think it's going to continue. And I would say they have reached out a number of times.
Xi or they?
Well, the same. I view it very similar. It would be top levels of China. And if you knew him, you would know that if they reached out, he knew exactly. He knew everything about it. He runs it very tight, very strong, very smart. And yeah, we're talking to China.
Matatanda ang sinabi ng US na maaaring umabot sa 245% ang ipapataw nilang tariff sa China dahil sa kanilang retaliatory actions. Nauna nang sinabi ng White House na China ang dapat na gumawa ng deal sa Washington at hindi ang US sa China. Bumuelta naman ang China kung saan sinabi nilang pilosopiya ng kanilang pamahalaan ang makipagsosyo sa kanilang mga kaalyado at hindi makipaglaban sa kahit anong bansa.
面对外部的不确定性，中国将坚持握手而非挥拳，拆墙而非筑垒，连通而非脱钩。我们将继续不断做大贸易的朋友圈，做强投资的引力场，以高质量的发展和高水平的对外开放，为世界经济注入更多的稳定性和正能量。
Extremely productive. Ganito po inilarawan ni Moscow Investment Envoy Kirill Dmitriev ang naging pag-uusap ni Russian President Vladimir Putin at ni US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. Subalit marami anya mga bansa ang nagtatangka ang guluhin ang dialogo ng Moscow at Washington. Marami rin anya mga miyembro ng media ang nagkakalat na maling impormasyon tungkol sa nasabing pulong. Kasama sa mahigit 5 oras na pag-uusap ni Putin at Witkoff si Dmitriev at si Russian Foreign Policy Aide Yuri Ushakov. Ayon kay Dmitriev, napakahalagang mailabas kung ano ang posisyon ng Russia. Dati nang ibinalita na permanenteng kapayapaan ang nais ni Putin para sa Ukraine.
Встреча была крайне продуктивна. Как я и раньше говорил, очень много людей, структур, стран пытаются сорвать наш диалог с Соединенными Штатами. Очень активно идет пропаганда против России в Соединенных Штатах на различных масс-медиа. Поэтому очень важно доносить российскую позицию напрямую. И, безусловно, это было сделано. И идет очень полезный диалог. Он, безусловно, идет в таких очень сложных условиях, постоянных атак, постоянной дезинформации. Поэтому то, что идет прямой диалог, он крайне важен.
Lumagda na ang mga opisyal ng Ukraine at Estados Unidos ng isang Memorandum of Intent o MOI para sa isang minerals deal. Sa isang post sa social media platform na X, sinabi ni Ukrainian First Deputy Prime Minister and Economy Minister Yulia Sviridenko na ang MOI ay inisyal na hakbang para sa Economic Partnership Agreement. Bahagi rin anya ng MOI ang pagtatatag ng isang investment fund para sa reconstruction ng Ukraine. Umaasaan niya ang Ukraine na magiging epektibong paraan ng naturang investment fund upang makaakit ng mga investors para sa pagsasaayos ng bansa, modernisasyon ng kanilang mga infrastruktura, suporta sa kanilang mga negosyo at upang magkaroon din anya ang Kiev ng mga bagong economic opportunities. Paliwanag pa ni Sviridenko, magkakaroon din ng ratifikasyon ng mga parlamento pagkatapos maisapinal ang mga nilalaman ng kasunduan at mapirmahan ito ng parehong panig.
Noong Huwebes, binigyan diin ni French President Emmanuel Macron ang pagnanais ng mga partido makamit ang matatag at pangmatagalang kapayapaan sa Ukraine. Ito po ay sa pulong nito sa Paris kasama si US Secretary of State Marco Rubio at ng mga kinatawan ng Europa at ng Ukraine. Narito po ang karagdagang mga detalye mula kay Rose Papa Angeles.
Ang high-level diplomacy na ito ay sumasalamin sa tumitinding pag-aalala ng Europa ukol sa relasyon ngayon ng Washington at Moscow. Ayon kay Pangulong Emmanuel Macron ng France, lahat ay naghahangad ng kapayapaan.
And I think this is a very important occasion to have convergence with our Ukrainian friends and amongst the Europeans alongside with you, because I think everybody wants to get peace, for sure, and a robust and sustainable peace. And this is something we clearly all pursue. And now the question is about the phasing, the way to approach this results, which is the one we do wish.
Ito matapos mabigo ang pagnanais ng US na pangunahan ng ceasefire sa 3 taong labanan sa pagitan ng Russia at Ukraine. Sa pagbisita ng mga ito sa Paris, nakatakdaring talakayin ng mga opisyal ng US ang usaping nuklear kasama ang Iran. Matagal nang ipinapahayag ni Pangulong Donald Trump ang pagnanais na tapusin na ang labanan sa Ukraine. Kamakailan, sinasabing nabibigo ito kapwa sa Moscow at Kiev kahit pa tila pumapanig ito sa posisyon ng Russia pagdating sa labanan. Noong nakaraang buwan, sumang-ayon ng Ukraine sa mungkahi ni Trump ukol sa ceasefire na tinanggihan naman ng Russia. Pumayag lang ang dalawang partido na tigilan ang pag-atake sa energy targets ng isa't isa at sa karagatan, na ayon sa dalawa ay nilabag na rin ng isa't isa. Rose Papa Angeles para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Matapos ang serye ng airstrikes ng Estados Unidos sa Ras Isa Oil Port sa Yemen, itinuturing ito na isa o bilang isa sa pinakamalupit na pag-atake ng US sa bansa. Ayon sa US Central Command, isinagawa ang pambobomba upang maputol ang pinagkukunan ng kita at gasolina ng mga Houthi na sinusuportahan umano ng Iran. Tinamaan ang ilang bahagi ng pasilidad na nagdulot ng matinding pagkondena mula sa mga mamamayan dahil sa dami ng sibilyang nadamay at sa kahalagahan ng Ras Isa bilang daan ng mahigit 70% ng imports at 80% ng humanitarian aid ng bansa. Layunin ng operasyon na pahinain ang ekonomiya ng grupo. Rumesponde naman ang Civil Defense at Yemeni Red Crescent upang magbigay ng tulong medikal at apulahin ang sunog. Mariing kinundena ng mga opisyal ng Houthi ang pag-atake at ayon naman kay Mohammed Nasser al-Atifi, lalong titibay ang kanilang suporta para sa Gaza sa kabila ng mga krimen ng Amerika.
تؤكد القوات المسلحة اليمنية أن العدوان الأمريكي لن يزيد اليمنيين إلا ثباتا وصمودا، وأن المواجهات خلال الأيام الماضية لم تكن إلا بداية لما سيكون من توسيع تدريجي للعمليات الدفاعية خلال الأيام المقبلة. وسيرى العدو المزيد من بأس أبناء اليمن العنيد إرادة وصلابة وعزيمة وإيمانا، مستمرون في منع الملاحة الإسرائيلية في البحرين الأحمر والعربي، ومستمرون في دعم وإسناد إخواننا الصامدين المظلومين في غزة حتى وقف العدوان عليهم ورفع الحصار عنهم.
Ilang oras matapos ang pambobomba, iniulat ng US State Department na nakumpirma nila ang pakikilahok ng isang Chinese firm ukol sa pag-pinpoint ng US features sa Middle East.
We can confirm the reporting that Cheng Guang Satellite Technology Company Limited is directly supporting Iran-backed Houthi terrorist attacks on U.S. interests. Their actions and Beijing's support of the company, even after our private engagements with them, is yet another example of China's empty claims to support peace. We urge our partners to judge the Chinese Communist Party and Chinese companies on their actions, not their empty words. Restoring freedom of navigation in the Red Sea is a priority to President Trump. Beijing should take this priority seriously when considering any future support of CGSTL. The United States will not tolerate anyone providing support to foreign terrorist organizations such as the Houthis.
Dagdag pa rito ay inakusahan din ng Estados Unidos ang China sa pagsuporta nito sa mga hostile entities katulad ng pagbigay nito ng impormasyon sa Yemen at ang pagbibigay nito ng armas sa Russia. Sinabi ni State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce na sa kabila ng panawagan nito para sa pandaigdigang kapayapaan ay patuloy pa rin ang pamamangka ng Beijing sa dalawang ilog.
There is a Chinese company providing satellite imagery to the Houthis. The Houthis. And we are aware of those reports. That has been, I think, reported originally perhaps by the Financial Times. But China consistently attempts, as you know, to frame itself as a global peacemaker. And however, it is clear that Beijing and China-based companies provide key economic and technical support to regimes like Russia, North Korea, and Iran and its proxies. The CCP continues to enable these regimes, whether it be through the provision of dual-use items Russia needs to sustain its war in Ukraine, North Korea's ballistic missile development, or Iran's support of terrorism across the Middle East. Just again, taking back to my topper a bit on Cheng Guang, it's a dynamic where it's clear, as we're learning, their engagement with war and the suffering of people globally. Of course, that remains unacceptable. It is Beijing's support, by the way, of that company, the satellite company, even after we've engaged in discussions with them about this. The fact that they continue to do this is unacceptable. Certainly contradicts their claims of being peace supporters.
Handa ang Hamas na pakawalan ng lahat ng natitirang mga hostages nito para wakasan na ang digmaan sa Gaza. Ito ay kung papayag umano ang Israel na magkaroon ng isang komprehensibong kasunduang tatapos sa sigalot sa Gaza. Ayon sa isang senior official ng Hamas, na isang kanilang grupo ng isang prisoner exchange at tumatanggian niya sila sa isang panandaliang tigil putukan sa rehiyon. Hindi naman naglabas ng panibagong pahayag ang Israel sa kahilingan ng Hamas. Sinabi ni Democratic U.S. Senator Chris Van Hollen na nakausap na niya si Kilmer Abrego Garcia, ang lalaki pong idineport ng administrasyon ni Trump. Si Abrego Garcia ay ang lalaking Salvadoran na nakulong sa Terrorism Confinement Center, isang maximum security prison sa El Salvador. Subalit, ayon sa isang korte, isang administrative error ang pagkakadeport kay Abrego Garcia.
24 hours. President Trump and our Attorney General Pam Bondi and the Vice President of the United States are lying when they say that Abrego Garcia has been charged with a crime or is part of MS-13. That is a lie.
Inaayos na ni Senator Van Hollen ang paglaya ni Abrego Garcia. Subalit sagot ni Vice President Felix Ulloa ng El Salvador, hindi nila pwedeng ilabas sa kulungan si Abrego Garcia dahil pinabayaran umano sila ng Estados Unidos na ikulong ito. Sa kabila naman ito, nangako si Senator Van Hollen na gagawin ng lahat para maiuwi ng Estados Unidos si Abrego Garcia. Inaasahan naman ni US President Donald Trump na magkikita sila ni King Charles sa Britanya ngayong darating na Setyembre. Ayon sa local news sa United Kingdom, posibleng sa Windsor Castle maganap ang napipintong makasaysayang pagkikita ng dalawang lider. Si Trump ang kauna-unahang political leader na paghahandaan ng United Kingdom ng dalawang state visits. Una siyang bumisita sa London noong taong 2019 bilang bahagi ng kanyang unang termino. Sinabi ni Trump na malaki ang kanyang respeto kay King Charles at sa British monarchy. Isa rin anyang napakalaking karangalan ang maging kaibigan ng hari at ng pamilya nito.
Susunod, isa na namang mass shooting ang naganap sa Florida State University.
United Healthcare CEO shooter Luigi Mangione hinatulan na po ng korte.
At Google nahaharap ngayon sa kaso ng pagmamanipula ng online ads. Mga balitang yan at iba pa ring mga balita sa pagbabalik ng Mata ng Agila International.
It's brighter. It's hotter. The most awaited happening of your summer. It's the Summer Blast 2025. But wait, the best got better. Because it is Net 25's silver anniversary. Grabe ang init ngayong Summer Blast. Kaya mag-summer outfit check na tayo para sa fun games, water park adventure, rides, neon lights na pwedeng pang selfie, fireworks, at pinaka-inaabangan nating lahat, concert all night long. Isang buong araw ito. So get your tickets now and experience the summer you'll always remember. Only at the Philippine Arena Complex, Ciudad de Victoria, Bocaue, Bulacan on April 27, 2025. Sobrang init na ba? Let's vibe this Summer Blast together with Net 25. Brighter. It's hotter. The most awaited happening of your summer. It's the Summer Blast 2025. But wait, the best got better. Because it is Net 25's silver anniversary. Grabe ang init ngayong Summer Blast. Kaya mag-summer outfit check na tayo para sa fun games, water park adventure, rides, neon lights na pwedeng pang selfie, fireworks, at pinaka-inaabangan nating lahat, concert all night long. Isang buong araw ito. So get your tickets now and experience the summer you'll always remember. Only at the Philippine Arena Complex, Ciudad de Victoria, Bocaue, Bulacan on April 27, 2025. Sobrang init na ba? Let's vibe this Summer Blast together with Net 25.
Sa kasulukuyang henerasyon, marami na ang nag-viral. Dahil po yan sa kanilang ginagawang pagtulong sa kapwa. Pero mas marami ang tumutulong kahit walang nakakakita. Kaya naman kung ikaw ay may kilala na grupo o individual na may natatanging pagresponde sa lipunan at maging sa kalikasan, mag-text lamang sa 0915-415-1035 o mag-email sa responde@net25.com at magpadala ng mensahe sa ating Facebook page at Net25TV. Baka kayo na ang susunod nating Certified Key Responder.
Let's net together. Sa Net 25. Sa Net 25.
At nagbabalik ang Mata ng Agila International sa pagpapatuloy po ng ating mga balita ngayong gabi. Sugatan ng 2 trabahador sa pagsabog na methane drilling rig sa Orenburg Oblast, Russia. Makikita sa nakalap na CCTV footage ang ilang sandali bago maganap ang pagsabog. Nakatayo ang 2 sa harap ng isang truck nang napansin nila ang itim na usok sa likuran ng sasakyan. Dito na sila nagmadali na umalis, subalit makaraan ng ilang segundo ay sumabog po ito. Inabutan ng 2 ng impact ng pagsabog habang nabalot naman ang apoy ang paligid ng drilling rig. Iniimbestigahan na ng mga otoridad ang sanhi ng leak sa site.
Patay ang 3 turista at isang operator matapos bumagsak ang sinasakyan nilang mountain cable car sa lupa malapit sa Naples sa Timog, Italy ayon sa ulat ng Emergency Services. Dahil dito, pansamantalang inihinto ang operasyon sa cable car line. Sinimula naman ng mga otoridad ang pagsagip sa mga pasahero na na-stranded sa mga cable car na apektado rin ng suspendidong operations. Nasa 16 katao ang nasagip mula rito. Naglunsad na ng investigasyon ng Prosecutor's Office hinggil sa insidente.
Biglang pinagbabaril ng isang 20 anyos na anak na lalaki ng isang deputy sheriff ang mga tao sa loob ng Florida State University gamit po ang isang handgun na lumalabas na former service weapon pala ng kanyang ina. Ayon kay Tallahassee Police Chief Lawrence Revel, patay ang 2 individual habang 6 naman ang nasaktan sa pamamaril. Naganap ang insidente habang nagtatanghalian ang mga estudyante at faculty staff ng universidad. Ayon po sa lokal na ulat, ang suspect na kinilala bilang si Phoenix Eckner ay pinaniniwala ang estudyante ng nasabing universidad. Nahuli naman si Eckner ng pulis at kasalukuyan ay nasa pagamutan dahil sa pinsala na kanya ring natamo. Inaalam na ng pulisya ang motibo ng suspect sa pamamaril.
Needless to say, we have multiple crime scenes. This is a very large area we're covering. We have thousands, hundreds of thousands, or hundreds or thousands of witnesses. And again, this is an active, ongoing investigation. So the information that we will be allowed to release right now may be fairly limited. I'll answer what I can at that time. But I will assure you that as soon as we can, any information that becomes available, we will make that available to you.
Tumaob at gumulong-gulong sa kalsada ang isang water tanker sa India. Mula sa dash camera footage, mapapansin na mabilis ang pagpapatakbo ng driver ng water tanker. Susubukan sana nitong mag-overtake pero nawala ng kontrol sa kanyang minamaneho. Nagdulot ng traffic sa Gunjur Main Road ang insidente. Dumating naman ang mga pulis sa crash site kung saan isinailalim ang 2 sakay ng water tanker sa blood sample test. Batay sa resulta ng test, hindi sila nakainom pero nahaharap ang 2 sa salang reckless driving. Pinaniniwala ang dahil sa sira ng brakes ng water tanker kung kaya't ito ay tumaob sa kalsada.
Labis ang pagdadalamhati ng pamilya ng 8 anyos na batang lalaki matapos atakihin ito ng buwaya sa Indonesia. Ayon po sa lokal na ulat, kinilala ang biktima bilang si Nur Ramadan. Naglalaro lamang si Nur kasama ang kanyang mga kaibigan malapit sa Rawa Inda Canal nang sinubukan itong kunin ang nahulog na bola na mag-isa. Subalit sa hindi inaasahang pagkakataon ay may nakaantabi na palang panganib sa kanya. Batay sa salaysay ng mga nakasaksi ay sinunggaban siya ng buwaya sa kanyang paa. Dito na narinig ang sigaw ng bata sa takot na siya ay kainin ng hayop. Sinubukan naman na hilahin ang kamay ni Nur ng isa sa mga kalaro niya. Subalit bigo nila itong maiahon at sa huli ay tuluyan na itong hinatak ng hayop patungo sa kanal. Rumisponde naman ang 2 residente sa animal attack para mabawi si Nur at gumamit sila ng generator para makuryente ang buwaya. Habang naparalisa ang hayop, ay binuksan nila ang tiyan nito at nalaman na walang laman ang bituka nito. Makalipas ng 3 oras ay nakita ng mga rescuers ang labi ni Nur na palutang-lutang sa kanal at may bakas ng kagat ng buwaya sa kanyang biti. Ipinabot po ni Senior Commissioner of Police Edward Pardede ang kanyang pakikiramay sa pamilya ni Nur. Dahil dito nagpatupad na mahigpit na pagbabantay ang mga otoridad sa paligid ng kanal para sa kaligtas na rin ng mga residente.
Posibleng masuspend ng halos 3 linggo ang mga estudyante ng high school sa Toronto, Canada. Ito ay kung kulang ang bakuna ng estudyante laban sa mga nakahahawang sakit. Alamin natin ang mga detalye mula kay Net25 correspondent Cherry Recolizado.
Maaaring masuspinde ang mga estudyante sa high school dito sa Toronto kung hindi kumpleto ang kanilang bakuna.
Ayon sa Toronto Public Health o TPH, maapektuhan ng unang round ng suspension ang 957 na estudyante mula sa 21 na paaralan. Ang mga estudyanteng ito ay nakatanggap ng sulat mula sa TPH na nagsasaad na hindi pa sila updated sa kanilang mga bakuna. Kalahati lamang sa kanila ang tumugon. Kung hindi matutugunan ang mga kinakailangang bakuna, maaaring masuspinde ang isang estudyante ng 20 araw ayon kay Dr. Benita Dube, Associate Medical Officer of Health. Ayon sa Immunization of School Pupils Act ng Ontario, kailangang bakunado ang mga estudyante sa Ontario laban sa mga partikular na sakit, diphtheria, tetanus, polio, tigdas o measles, beke o mumps, rubella, meningococcal disease, pertussis at bulutong tubig o varicella. Maraming estudyante ang hindi nabakunahan noong gitnang baitang dahil sa pandemya ng COVID-19. Ipinapatupad ang mga suspension habang may kumakalat na kaso ng tigdas sa Ontario kung saan umabot na sa 661 ang bilang ng mga nahawa batay sa kamakailang ulat. Ang TPH ay nagbigay ng suspension sa 10,157 estudyanteng hindi pa rin sumusunod sa panuntunan. Ang Ottawa Public Health ay naglabas ng humigit kumulang 15,000 suspension notices habang sa Waterloo 1,600 estudyante ang nasuspende noong nakaraang linggo. Cherry Recolisado, Toronto, Ontario para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Ipinagpaliban naman ng isang Los Angeles judge ang resentencing hearing ni Lyle at Eric Menendez. Ang magkapatid nagsisilbi ng habang buhay na sentensya dahil sa pagpatay sa kanilang mga magulang noong taong 1989. Ang resentencing hearing ng dalawa ay tinutulan ni Los Angeles County District Attorney Nathan Hochman dahil magiging eligible ang magkapatid na humiling ng parol na posibleng magresulta sa kanilang paglaya. Sinabi naman ni Attorney Mark Garagos, abogado ng magkapatid, na plano niya maghain ng motion para hilinging alisin si Hochman sa nasabing kaso.
Sinampahan ng federal charges si Luigi Mangione, ang suspek sa pagpatay kay United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Nangangahulugan ito na may nakitang probable cause ang grand jury para kasuhan si Mangione ng murder, stalking at firearm offenses. Parehong tumangging magbigay ng komento ang kampo ni Mangione at ang U.S. Attorney's Office para sa Southern District ng New York. Sakaling mapatunayang nagkasala nga si Mangione, ay posibleng tumanggap siya ng life sentence sa kulungan dahil wala ng death penalty sa state cases ng New York. Noong Huwebes, nagprotesta ang mga estudyante ng Berkeley at Harvard Universities laban sa mga tuntuning pang-edukasyon ng kasalukuyang administrasyon ng Estados Unidos. Narito ang report ni Anna Cui.
Kamakailan, binandaan ni Pangulong Donald Trump ang Harvard University ng foreign student ban kung hindi ito ibibigay ang ilang impormasyon ukol sa visa holders sa paaralan. Dahil dito, noong Huwebes, umalma ang dose-dose ng mga estudyante at mga taga-suporta nito sa Harvard Widener Library Steps. Kinukondena ng mga ito ang mga tuntuning pang-edukasyon ng Pangulo. Ayon sa mga nagsalita sa protesta, hindi nila nais na sumunod ang universidad sa mga hinihingi ng gobyerno.
We wanted to show that Harvard can stand together united, saying we're not going to cave to demands that we turn in some international student names so that they can be have their visas revoked without a just cause, and they can be deported back to their home countries. And that instead, we're going to stand together as a university, as Harvard College, saying that, look, we're not doing anything for you, and we're going to stand behind freedom. These are my fellow classmates who want to be doctors, want to work in nonprofits, want to be educators, want to do really cool things with their lives. And I want them to stay in the United States to do that. I want the United States to be that place where people can come here and people can see, wow, this is the land of the free. I can pursue whatever business I want to pursue. I can do the research I want to do. And I can trust that in the US, I will be free to, pursue truth and pursue excellence. And that's why they came here. And I want to show them that the United States that they came here for still stands and is something that we're all willing to fight for.
Noong Miyerkules, sinabi ng Department of Homeland Security na matatanggal sa Harvard University ang abilidad nito na mag-enroll ng foreign students kung hindi nito ibibigay ang mga hinihingi ng Trump administration. Ito nga ay ang magbigay ng impormasyon ukol sa ilang visa holders. Inanunsyo naman ni Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem noong Miyerkules ang terminasyon ng 2 grants para sa Harvard na nagkakahalaga ng $2.7 million. Noong nakaraang buwan, sinabi ng Administrasyong Trump na sinusuri nito ang $9 billion na federal contracts at grants para sa Harvard. Nagpataw ang administrasyon ng restrictions kabilang ang mask ban at pag-aalis ng diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. Dito ibabatay kung itutuloy ba ang pagbibigay ng federal funds sa paaralan. Noong Lunes, tinanggihan ng Harvard ang mga hiling na ito. Inihinto ng gobyerno ang $2.3 billion na pondo para sa Harvard. Samantala, nakiisa ang mga estudyante, mga guro at staff ng University of California, Berkeley sa pagprotesta laban sa education cuts at mga banta sa universidad ng pamahalaan tulad ng Harvard at Columbia. Pinangalanang Rise Up for Education ang rally. Ayon kay Robert Reich, na professor ng public policy, hindi magtatagumpay ang paniniil kung walang magpapasiil.
Now, if the best or near best private university in America or the world can say no, if it can defy the Trump regime, even at the expense, at a big expense, and I'll get into this in a moment, if it can do that, then the best public university in America and the world must do the same. Tyranny cannot exist unless people submit to it. And we are not going to submit.
Ayon naman kay Associate Professor Polomi Saha, maninindigan sila sa panig ng mga estudyante.
If there's one thing that we are all committed to, it is the safety of our students, and that we will not allow them to be picked off. We will not let them be threatened for exercising their First Amendment rights, and we certainly won't sit by while there's political litmus tests applied to them that potentially puts them in real harm's way.
Ibinahagi naman ni Matthew Parker ang kanyang pinaniniwalaan at pinaninindigan.
I'm against the cuts, which is a big part of Trump's agenda, cutting funding to education. And I'm also against the whole spiel. I mean, I got my master's at Columbia, and what they did to that Columbia student. And I just believe in due process. I believe in the Constitution. I believe in inalienable rights, which is a big part of my curriculum. I mean, rights that you are naturally born with and that cannot be taken away, at least in theory.
Ganito rin ang saloobin ng estudyanteng si Sam Kaplan Perez.
I think that we have something that we're fighting for that is a little bit different than what we've been fighting for in the past. And that is our very right to keep fighting and our right to resist and our right to speak and learn and teach, even if it disagrees with the current political regime. And I think this is the fight to win all fights, and that we need to show up and in a way that is more powerful and more abundant than in the past.
Dagdag ni Perez, buhay na ang nakasalalay sa mga nangyayari ngayon.
But this is not politics anymore. This is our lives. This is our fundamental relationship with our country and ourselves. And this is not a drill. And I think it's hard to recognize that when we've been living our whole lives in a fire and in a crisis. But this is not a drill. This one's different.
Ana Cui para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Isang mangingisda sa Georgia, USA ang nagbuhos po ng kanyang saloobin ukol sa taripa ng US sa mga produktong inaangkat nito. Lalo na ang mga ginagamit sa pangingisda na karamihan ay galing pala sa bansang China. Narito pang report ni JC Umol.
Ito si Charles Richards ng Georgia.
Halos araw-araw, narito siya sa fishing dock sa Sweetwater Creek para sa Lithia Springs upang ihagis ang kanyang fishing rod. Para kay Richards na isang retiree, ang pangingisda ay paraan niya upang malibang. Subalit dahil ang simpleng paghagis ng pangbingwit at paghuli ng isda ay humaharap sa abalang pang-ekonomiya dahil sa mga taripa. Ibinahagi ni Richards kung papaano naapektuhan ng mga taripang ito ang dati-rati tahimik niyang paglilibang.
When you go to a fish store, you buy certain supplies all the time. So that will affect us. It hasn't hit the store like you said yet, but yeah, I go to a fishing store maybe once or twice a month and refresh my supplies, refresh buying hooks and stuff so you can always have it. I know who's in charge is, I don't understand what he's doing, but he's trying to say he's making America great. But he's infatuating tariffs that I think is outrageous sometimes, but I don't know. I gotta wait and see.
Ayon naman kay Glenn Hughes, na presidente ng American Sport Fishing Association, maaaring makaapekto ng malaki ang mga taripa sa industriya ng pangingisda kung saan nasa 60% ng mga produkto ay inaangkat mula sa international markets. Karamihan ay mula sa China.
The impact that the tariffs will have are rather dramatic. When we think about the products right now built in the U.S., we maybe have 40% of the products made in the U.S. and about 60% of the products come from international markets. About 60% of those come from China. And so right now it's really that a large part of the rods and reel manufacturing does come from China. And so the impact on rod and reel pricing to not only the manufacturer, the retailer here in the U.S. and the consumer is dramatic.
Nagsimula ng maghanda si Gable Sporting Goods Department Manager Harold Driver para sa magkakaugnay na epekto ng taripa.
There's always increases as material costs go up, but not as what's expected with the tariffs. It comes from all over the Middle East. The majority of it does come from China. Everything is affected, with the exception of maybe some of the plastics. If it's a hook, it's going to be coming from China or some of the other countries. All of the fishing stuff, as far as reels, rods, they'll be affected greatly.
Samantala, naghudyat ang White House na bukas pa rin ang Pangulong Donald Trump sa isang trade deal sa China. Subalit ayon sa Washington, kailangang maunang kumilos ang Beijing. JC Yumul para sa Mata ng Agila International, Trusted, Connected, On Point.
Kinokonsidera ng maraming traders sa India na mag-export ng mga diamante sa Gulf and European markets. Ito po ay matapos bumagsak sa $13.3 billion ang kanilang export sales ng cut and polished diamonds. Bunsod nila ito na mababang demand mula sa Estados Unidos at sa China.
India diamond exports have fallen down to 13.3 billion USD in 24-25, which is a 16% fall from the last years, and also the total exports of 24-25 have fallen to $28.5 billion. And we see that there is a lot of stress in the Karigar community, in the broker community in Surat, in Mumbai, because of this exports fall, where the US was the maximum consumer of Indian diamond loose and setted jewelry, diamond jewelry.
Ang bansang India ang pinakamalaking cutting and polishing diamond hub sa buong mundo. Dito pinoproseso ang 9 sa 10 diamante ng world markets. Dahil dito sa 10% baseline tariff na ipinataw ni US President Donald Trump nitong 90-day tariff pause, ay ilang diamond customers ang nanghingi ng replacement orders. Wala rin anilang katiyakan ang ekonomiya, partikular na sa US markets, kaya apektado ang diamond traders sa India.
अमेरिका के राष्ट्रपति डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प जी ने जो
टैरिफ रेट रिव्यू किया है, जो घटा के 10% किया है, तो थोड़ा ऑर्डर अभी रिप्लेसमेंट हुआ है, करके कहीं ऑर्डर ऐसे भी है कि सप्लाई करना है तो परचेज करनी ही पड़ती है। तो जो कंटिन्यूटी में से थोड़ा लोग अभी माल मंगवा रहे हैं, लेकिन 90 डेज के बाद फिर से कम होने वाला है।
Huwebes, nagpasya ang isang judge na illegal na dinodomina ng Google ang dalawang markets para sa online advertising technology. Narito ang report ni NJ De Guzman.
Ayon kay U.S. District Judge Leonie Brinkema sa Alexandria, Virginia, hindi na ipakita ng antitrust enforcers na may monopolya ang Google sa advertiser ad networks. Nagpasya si Brinkema na illegal na minonopolize ng Google ang mga merkada para sa publisher ad servers at ang merkada para sa ad exchanges na nasa pagitan ng mamimili at mga nagbebenta. Ayon sa U.S. Department of Justice, dapat ibenta ng Google kahit ang ad manager nito, na kabilang ang publisher ad server at ang ad exchange nito. Haharap ngayon ang Google sa posibilidad na humarap sa dalawang U.S. courts na nag-uutos na ibenta nito ang assets ng kumpanya o palitan ang business practices nito. Sa isang linggo, lilitisin ng isang judge sa Washington ang tech giant base sa request ng DOJ na ipabenta sa Google ang Chrome browser nito at gumawa ng mga hakbang upang wakasan ang pangingibabaw nito sa online search. Naibalita na ng nakaraan na minsan nang sinubukang ibenta ng Google ang ad exchange nito upang pagbigyan ng European antitrust regulators. NJ De Guzman para sa Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
At marami pong residente at turista ng Poland ang nagtatampisaw ngayon sa beach dahil sa sobrang namang init doon. Ayon sa meteorologists, isang hot air mass ang nakapalibot sa buong bansa kaya maituturing na warmest country sa Europe ang Poland. Ilan din lang nagulat dahil minsan ang buwan ng Abril sa Poland ay snowy, subalit ngayong taon, summer season po ang kanilang nararanasan. Subalit sa halip na mainis dahil sa sobrang init ay naging pagkakataon pa ito para sa maraming pamilya na magkaroon naman ng bonding time. Maraming mga bata ang naglalaro sa mga dalampasigan habang nag-e-enjoy naman sa paglalakad ang kanilang mga magulang. May ilan ding residente ang nababahala naman sa summer weather dahil epektoan nila ito ng global warming.
Wspominaliśmy, że czasami w kwietniu potrafi być śnieżnie w naszych okolicach, a dzisiaj jest wakacyjnie, także przyjechaliśmy skorzystać z pogody i spędzić czas rodzinnie.
Kąpiemy się, robimy zamki z piasku czasami, opalamy się i gramy w piłkę.
Dzisiejsza pogoda na pewno jest dla nas taką super niespodzianką po tej zimie, którą zazwyczaj tutaj mamy z wiatrem, a dzisiaj można w końcu po pracy sobie wyczyścić głowę w najlepszy możliwy sposób, czyli grając w beach tenisa.
Wydaje, że od 40 lat nie widziałem tak ciepłego kwietnia. Wydaje mi się, że planeta płonie i są konieczne ograniczenia, głównie we wpuszczaniu samochodów do centrów miast.
Nie, że jest fajnie, tak? Ale w perspektywie długoterminowej to są takie obawy raczej tego, jak te kolejne pokolenia się z tym zmierzą.
At narito po kami para maghatid ng balita saan mang dako ng mundo. Magandang gabi. Ako po muli si Rikki Mathay.
Ako si Nina Rikki Alagao Flores. Ito po ang Mata ng Agila International. Para naman po sa iba pang mga balitang nangyari rin sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo, punta tayo kay Alma Angeles para sa Net 25 World News. Take it away, Alma.
Thank you, Nina and Rikki. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles for Net 25 World News on tonight's headlines. Fear and grief on a U.S. university campus after a deadly shooting at Florida State University.
2 victims of the deceased
are deceased and 5 individuals have been transported to a local hospital with gunshot wounds.
And President Trump takes aim at Fed Chair Jerome Powell, saying he can't be terminated fast enough. But Powell pushes back, insisting the president has no power to fire him.
Oh, he'll leave. If I ask him to, he'll be out of there. I don't think he's doing the job. He's too late, always too late, a little slow, and I'm not happy with him. I let him know it, and if I want him out, he'll be out of there real fast, believe me.
Our independence is a matter of law. Congress has, in our statute, we're not removable except for cause. We serve very long terms, seemingly endless terms.
While warning that Trump's tariffs could do serious damage to the U.S. economy. Finally, a story of innovation and resilience will introduce you to Tilly Lucky, a young woman who has embraced prosthetic technology, now testing cutting-edge bionic arms with detachable, remotely operated hands. And the news starts now. We begin tonight with a horrifying scene on the campus of Florida State University. Gunfire shattered the afternoon calm near the student union, sending students running for their lives. Take a look. Panic and terror on campus, gunshots echoing across Florida State University, students seen fleeing, others evacuating with their hands in the air. The violence erupted just before noon outside the student union. Officials confirming 2 people were killed and 6 others wounded.
At approximately 11:50 a.m. Thursday, April 17th, a gunman opened fire on the main campus of Florida State University in Tallahassee, shooting multiple individuals in the vicinity of the student union building. FSU police responded immediately, engaged, neutralized, and apprehended the shooter. 2 victims are deceased, and 5 individuals have been transported to a local hospital with gunshot wounds. The shooter has also been transported to a local hospital. The 2 deceased are not students. The shooter is believed to be a current FSU student.
The suspect is now hospitalized. He's the son of a current Leon County Sheriff's deputy.
The shooter is 20-year-old Phoenix Eichner, and he's the son of a Leon County Sheriff deputy. Our Deputy Eichner, has been with the Leon County Sheriff's Office for over 18 years. She has a tremendous job that she's done. Her service to this community has been exceptional. Unfortunately, her son had access to one of her weapons, and that was one of the weapons that was found at the scene. And we are continuing that investigation into how that weapon was used and what other weapons perhaps he may have had access to.
As alerts of an active shooter spread across campus, students scrambled to hide, some blocking classroom doors, others unable to reach 911.
All of a sudden, as we were sitting in the bowling alley, we just see people running, like all at once, and running towards bathrooms, running towards like wherever they could go. And all of us in the bowling alley were like, this is not normal. We're gonna, at least run into the billiards room, which still has a glass wall, but puts like another glass wall between us. And then just until we figure out what's going on, and then it was within a minute, I think, that we got the alert that there was an active shooter in the union.
Law enforcement agencies swarmed the campus, clearing buildings room by room, calling out code words to evacuate terrified students. Asked if today's tragedy changes his stance on gun laws, President Trump said,
Well, I'm going to have to look. I'm a big advocate of the Second Amendment. I have been from the beginning. I protected it. And these things are terrible. But the gun doesn't do the shooting. The people do. It's, a phrase that's used probably too often. I will tell you that it's a shame. I'm just hearing about it now. I just hear about it. I know the area very well. I know the school very well. I know everything about it. It's Florida. And we'll have more to say about it later. I have to
What do
see
you
what
mean when
happens.
you say there will be more to say about it?
Only in terms of what happened. As far as legislation is concerned, this has been going on for a long time. I have an obligation to protect the Second Amendment. I ran on the Second Amendment, among many other things, and I will always protect the Second Amendment.
This is not the first time Florida State has experienced campus gunfire. Back in 2014, an employee and 2 students were shot in another attack. And authorities say several buildings remain active crime scenes. The campus is once again shaken, this time by a gunman with deep ties to law enforcement.
The alleged shooter was also a long-standing member of the Leon County Sheriff's Office Citizen Advisory or Youth Advisory Council. So he has been steeped in the Leon County Sheriff's Office family, engaged in a number of training programs that we have. So it's not a surprise to us that he had access to weapons. This event is tragic in more ways than you people in the audience could ever fathom from a law enforcement perspective. But I will tell you this, we will make sure that we do everything we can to prosecute.
Tensions and hopes are both high as the U.S. and Iran prepare for a crucial second round of talks on Iran's nuclear program, set to take place tomorrow in Rome. The negotiations come amid international concern over Tehran's uranium enrichment activities and renewed calls for diplomatic solutions. President Donald Trump, speaking Thursday, signaled he's in no rush to launch a military strike against Iran, despite growing pressure and reports that he had previously dismissed calls for an Israeli-led attack.
I wouldn't say waved off. I'm not in a rush to do it because I think that Iran has a chance to have a great country and to live happily without death. And I'd like to see that. That's my first option. If there's a second option, I think it would be very bad for Iran. And I think Iran is wanting to talk. I hope they're wanting to talk. It's going to be very good for them if they do. And I'd like to see Iran thrive in the future, do fantastically well.
The second round of discussions follows last week's indirect talks in Muscat, Oman, which both sides described as constructive and calm. The venue shift to Rome was proposed by the U.S. as both delegations seek to build on the positive momentum. IAEA Chief Rafael Grossi arrived in Tehran on Wednesday for meetings with Iranian officials. Grossi has urged that the UN nuclear watchdog play a central role in any future agreement.
What is important is that we play a constructive role. For some, what one says may sometimes be good or sometimes not be so sufficiently good. The important thing is that there is an honest effort here on our part to keep the integrity of the effort to be at the service of countries that have serious differences and are trying to solve them in a diplomatic way, because this is what we need.
However, Iran's deputy foreign minister has indicated it may be too early to formally involve the IAEA in the talks, even as Grossi is expected to be present in Rome for the occasion. The backdrop to these talks is tense. In February, the IAEA warned that Iran is enriching uranium to near weapons-grade levels, calling the situation of serious concern. Tehran has consistently denied seeking nuclear weapons, insisting its program is for peaceful purposes. President Trump, meanwhile, has not ruled out military action if negotiations failed.
And I don't want to do anything that's going to hurt anybody. I really don't, but Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. It's, pretty simple. It's really simple. We're not looking to take their industry. We're not looking to take their land. All we're saying is you can't have a nuclear weapon. But no, I'd like to see Iran thrive. And they can do that, I think, very easily, or they can do it the other way, and the other way is not going to be good for them. It's going to be really bad for them.
In Washington, tensions are rising between former President Donald Trump and Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. At the center of the clash, interest rates, inflation, and accusations of political bias. Take a look. With markets jittery and the U.S.-China trade war heating up, President Trump is once again turning up the heat on a man he appointed, Fed Chair Jerome Powell. In a post, Trump said Powell's termination cannot come fast enough, and he's accusing the Fed chief of playing politics by not cutting interest rates to boost the economy.
I don't think he's doing the job. He's too late, always too late, a little slow, and I'm not happy with him. I let him know it, and if I want him out, he'll be out of there real fast, believe me.
This criticism comes after Powell warned that new tariffs could push inflation higher, at least temporarily.
The level of tariff increases announced so far is significantly larger than anticipated, and the same is likely to be true of the economic effects, which will include higher inflation and slower growth.
So prices haven't gone up. The only thing that's gone up actually is interest rates, because we have a Federal Reserve Chairman that is playing politics, somebody that I've never been very fond of actually, but he's playing politics. Interest rates should be down now. They should be coming down. In Europe, as you know, they reduced them, I guess 7 times. It looks like they're going to reduce them again and again and again, but our guy wants to play cute. But interest rates are pretty much even. Maybe they went up just a slight bit, but that's the only thing. But that's because of the Federal Reserve, because they're not very smart people.
But Powell is standing firm, saying the Fed will never be influenced by political pressure. While Trump has previously said he wouldn't try to remove Powell, he's now openly questioning the chairman's future.
Oh, he'll leave. If I ask him to, he'll be out of there.
But legal experts say firing him wouldn't be easy or even legal.
Our independence is a matter of law. Congress has, in our statute, we're not removable except for cause. We serve very long terms, seemingly endless terms. So we're protected in the law. So, you know, Congress could change that law, but I don't think there's any danger of that. Fed independence has pretty broad support across both political parties and in both sides of the Hill. So I think that's not a problem.
Powell's term as Fed chair runs until next year. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court is considering whether to take up a separate case that could expand a president's power to remove heads of independent agencies. U.S. President Donald Trump said that China has reached out to talk since the U.S. imposed tariffs on imports from the country.
I have a very good relationship with President Xi, and I think it's going to continue. And I would say they have reached out a number of times.
She or they?
Well, the same. I view it very similar. It would be top levels of China. And if you knew him, you would know that if they reached out, he knew exactly. He knew everything about it. He runs it very tight, very strong, very smart. And yeah, we're talking to China.
So you are talking directly to President Xi?
I don't want to say that. Yeah. It's just not appropriate.
But you're speaking. Sorry. Has he called you directly, President Xi, or reached out to try to facilitate a conversation?
Well, you'd think it was pretty obvious that he has, but we will talk about that soon. It's not that important because, honestly, we're going to have a deal. I believe we're going to have a deal with China. And if we don't, we're going to have a deal anyway because we're going to set a certain target, and that's going to be it. You have anything to say about that, Howard?
I think our tariff policy around the world has every country in the world coming in and talking to us. It is incredible. We had country after country in yesterday. We are confident that we will work out something with China.
Now, Trump added he would delay a deal on TikTok until the trade issue with China is worked out.
Well, we have a deal for TikTok, but it'll be subject to China, so we'll just delay the deal till this thing works out one way or the other. And I think it's a good deal for China. The TikTok deal is very good. TikTok is good for China, and I think they'd like to see us do a deal, especially the deal that we have pretty much done with some of the best companies in the world.
The Trump administration is rolling out a new plan to boost U.S. shipbuilding by hitting Chinese ships with port fees. Take a look. The idea, charge vessels built in China when they dock at American ports as part of a broader push to challenge Beijing's dominance in the global shipbuilding market. While this version of the plan is a bit softer than the one floated back in February, which suggested charging up to $1.5 million per visit, the fees will still kick in within 180 days and gradually increase over time. But the move isn't sitting well with China.
We have previously stated our position on the relevant issue many times. I would like to reiterate here that measures such as levying port fees and imposing tariffs on cargo handling equipment are harmful to both sides. They have not only pushed up global shipping costs and disrupted the stability of global supply chain, but also increased inflationary pressure in the United States, harmed the interests of American consumers and companies, and ultimately failed to revitalize the U.S. shipbuilding industry.
Critics are also worried the new fees could rattle global trade even further, especially with Trump's broader tariff policies already in play.
Reading of the initial proposal was there's one fee based on who operates the ship, one fee based on where the ship itself is built, and one more fee based on the order book. You know, with the last two having gradations. My interpretation is they've moved away from that.
Whenever there's an increased cost of servicing your customers, typically because there's so much consumer products that are going from point A to point B on these large ocean vessels, you're going to have a trickle-down effect. And depending on the commodity, that increase of cost could have astronomical impacts on inflation.
Because it will be kind of dollar for dollar raised, much more disruptive to the actual physical movement of the ships. You know, whether it's diversions, whether it's consolidating ports, you know, which guarantees with it a certain amount of congestion. It's blunter and in my view more disruptive.
The U.S. is standing firm in its support for Taiwan. During a visit to Taipei, U.S. Senator Pete Ricketts assured President Lai Ching-te that America will keep helping Taiwan defend itself and that Washington wants to see peace in the Taiwan Strait without pressure or threats. Speaking at the presidential office, Ricketts emphasized that even though U.S. administrations may change, support for Taiwan runs deep.
We oppose any unilateral change in the status of Taiwan. We expect any differences between Taiwan and the mainland to be resolved peacefully, without coercion or the threat of force. To that end, the United States will continue to assist Taiwan in its self-defense. There is broad consensus in the U.S. Congress to support Taiwan's self-defense.
The U.S. remains Taiwan's closest international partner and key arms supplier, even without official diplomatic ties. And his visit comes just weeks after China carried out fresh military drills around the island. President Lai and his government continue to push back against Beijing's sovereignty claims, insisting that only the people of Taiwan can decide their future. Amidst a devastating earthquake that claimed over 3,600 lives in Myanmar, the ruling junta and the opposition National Unity Government have indicated they will extend existing ceasefires to allow for critical aid. This development follows rare diplomatic outreach by Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, who chairs the ASEAN bloc. Despite a previous largely ineffective ceasefire declared after the March 28th quake, this renewed commitment directly resulting from ASEAN's engagement with both the junta and the shadow government formed after the 2021 coup offers a vital window for humanitarian assistance in the strife-torn nation. ASEAN, which has largely shunned the junta, is now actively seeking to implement its 5-point consensus peace plan through this dialogue. Tensions on the Korean peninsula are escalating again. North Korea has criticized the U.S. for sending a B-1B bomber to joint military drills with South Korea, labeling it reckless bluffing and an open threat. The drills held on Tuesday, including fighter jets, South Korea's defense ministry insists the exercises are defensive. And this comes as South Korea and the U.S. launch a 2-week joint Air Force exercise, Freedom Flag, featuring stealth fighter jets. Ukraine says Kiev and Washington have signed a memorandum as an initial step towards clinching an agreement on developing mineral resources in Ukraine. Now that deal has been promoted by U.S. President Donald Trump. Mathay likeness for more.
Trump has been pushing for a deal that would give the U.S. access to critical minerals from quarries in Ukraine like these. He frames it as repayment for U.S. military aid to Ukraine in its war with Russia. Trump says the final ink could be put on the deal in 7 days.
Well, we have a minerals deal, which I guess is going to be signed on Thursday, Scott, next Thursday, soon. And I assume they're going to live up to the deal, so we'll see. But we have a deal on that.
As the war continues, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he's concerned about China's involvement. He's openly accused China of supplying military assistance to Moscow.
Ну і важлива інформація, вона не дуже приємна. Ми отримали нарешті інформацію.
And I think we will be able to talk about it in great detail next week. Especially about the data that we believe shows that Chinese representatives are engaged in the production of some weapons on the territory of Russia.
China has not commented on Zelensky's remarks. The Ukrainian president also questions the bias of U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. Following a meeting between Witkoff and Russian President Vladimir Putin, Witkoff suggested a peace deal hinges on the fate of 5 parts of Ukraine that Russia now controls. Zelensky says it appears Witkoff is taking Russia's side in the peace talks.
I believe that Mr. Witkoff has adopted the strategy of the Russian side. I believe that it is very dangerous, because he consciously or unconsciously, I don't know, is spreading Russian narratives.
Zelensky says Ukraine will never recognize those territories as belonging to Russia. Efforts to move peace talks along continued Thursday in Paris as Witkoff, along with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, met with European leaders. Rubio says a U.S. peace framework received an encouraging reception. And following the meeting, French President Emmanuel Macron said there's a desire by all to end the war.
Everybody wants to get peace, for sure, and a robust and sustainable peace. This is something we clearly will all pursue. And now the question is about the phasing, the way to approach this results, which is the one we do wish.
So we've talked about outlines of both sides. I thought we had positive meetings yesterday. Obviously, the Ukrainians have to go back home. They have to run it by their president. They have to take into account, their views on all of this, and we hope to hear back from them very soon. This is important, but there are a lot of other really important things going on that deserve just as much, if not more, attention. What we're talking about here is avoiding thousands and thousands of people from dying over the next year. We're trying to avoid that. So if they're serious about peace, either side or both, we want to help. If it's not going to happen, then we're just going to move on.
European negotiators will meet next week in London in further efforts to bring the war to an end. Mathay likeness, Net 25 World News.
And the news continues here on Net 25. We'll be right back. While the murder of a health insurance CEO in New York last year sparked public outcry and a manhunt, the accused, Luigi Mangione, now faces the potential of the death penalty following a federal indictment, despite already facing state charges without that possibility. Take a look.
A federal grand jury has indicted Luigi Mangione, who is accused of murdering a health insurance executive in New York last year. That allows prosecutors to seek the death penalty in his case, according to court filings on Thursday. Mangione is accused of shooting and killing Brian Thompson last December outside a Manhattan hotel, where his company United Health had gathered for an investor conference. The brazen killing of the CEO and ensuing 5-day manhunt captivated Americans, with some cheering Mangione, saying he drew attention to high costs and systemic flaws in the U.S. healthcare industry. The 26-year-old is already facing state murder and weapons charges in New York, which does not have the death penalty. The federal indictment does not include new charges, but raises the stakes for Mangione, who has pleaded not guilty to the state charges. Mangione has asked a judge to prevent federal prosecutors from seeking the death penalty. In a filing last week, his lawyer said U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi's directive earlier this month to prosecutors to seek the death penalty was, quote, unapologetically political and breached government protocols for death penalty decisions. If that bid fails and Mangione is convicted in the federal case, the jury would determine in a separate phase of the trial whether to recommend the death penalty. Any such recommendation must be unanimous, and the judge would be required to impose it.
For Tilly Lucky, who lost her hands as a toddler, prosthetic technology has been life-changing. And now the 19-year-old is at the forefront of another revolution, testing upon Bionic's latest creation, bionic arms with detachable, remotely controlled hands that are faster and stronger than ever before. Here's the report.
At just 19, Tilly Lucky has been at the forefront of prosthetic innovation with UK-based robotics company Open Bionics for nearly a decade. Now she's the proud owner of their latest bionic arms, which feature hands that operate even when detached from the body.
So I could just pull it out like that, but I can still operate it when it's not attached.
Lucky, who lost both her hands to meningitis as a toddler, has been helping Open Bionics push the boundaries of what is possible with prosthetics. Her ongoing feedback has helped develop advancements like 360-degree wrist rotation and wireless control.
So as you can see, it's just really, really responsive, super fast, super strong, to the point where like I'm not used to being that strong. So as you can imagine, it's pretty crazy, all while keeping it like lightweight, lighter than, you know, other ones on the market.
After 4 years of development, these prosthetics now offer unprecedented speed and functionality. The company says that new models are twice as fast as existing alternatives and uniquely waterproof. Founded in 2014, Open Bionics uses 3D printing to create robotic limbs, with its flagship product, the Hero Arm, being the world's first medically approved 3D printed multi-grip bionic hand. For Lucky, seeing the positive impact bionic limbs can have inspires her.
Hearing people being like proud to show off that difference now rather than having to like hide it away, I feel like that's a thing that all them different people go through, you know, where you start to roll the sleeves down and things like that. But with this technology, it's like people want to show it off for the first time, and I think that's amazing. And like they're my favorite stories, you know, people wanting to go out in the summertime and wear their little t-shirts and roll those sleeves up, and like little kids getting like Elsa inspired arms, and you know, all their friends at school being excited about it and them being excited about it. That's what it's all about.
And with that, we end tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on Net 25, I'm Alma Angeles. Thank you all for joining us. Good night.
This program is supported by